There are a few things we covered in this introductory module, and one of them clearly being that web servers are diverse. We saw a lot of Apache and a lot of IIS, but we also saw some Nginx and a few other smaller players. They can also be complex. We looked at that request pipeline for IIS, particularly the way the implementation isolated processes in that user mode outside of kernel mode to try and protect one application from the other. Now, I also talked about the differences between the web server and the application, and clearly the web server is just one attack surface. So being able to compromise IIS, for example, is only one thing that the attacker would look for. They also want to look for risks in that ASP.NET application or other equivalent technology running on top of the server. So it's important to keep in mind that all of this is part of one broader ecosystem that is the entire application environment. And finally, we just took a look at cloud, and I talked about how that PaaS model, the platform as a service, means that the operating system and the middleware being the web server, plus the runtime such as .NET, is managed by the cloud provider. And this is becoming increasingly popular because those models are making it easier and easier to stand up applications and delegate the responsibility of managing the very commoditized components of the environment back to the cloud provider. Now that also means that you have less responsibility over some of the risks. And again, as we go through this course, I'll talk about which components may actually be managed by the hosting provider themselves and done so as part of a very large-scale implementation like Azure, compared to the components that are most likely to be managed via the customer and are more likely to fall out of date with patches or be configured insecurely. So that's the introduction to understanding how web servers are hacked. Let's now move on and start looking at discovering risks in web servers.